Hello again YouTube, and welcome to Project Greyhound. So this is my new to me, Planet X Exocet 2 time trial bike. This is going to be my new triathlon rig. Given that I've kind of hit all the initial goals that I wanted to from the point of view of losing weight and getting fit again, so as I stand before you today, 85 kilos is kind of just where I'm keeping myself. I put myself into a maintenance plan now to keep myself there. I've got my first race booked. So if you're going to be at the Castle Series Beaver Castle Olympic, I'm going to be there too on that start line. And I really thought it was time I started to, put this body into a bit of a performance mode rather than just the weight loss mode that it's been in for months, and do something about my kit. I think it's fair to say that for any distance over sprint, once you get up to Olympic, the bike is a pretty big part of that. So one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that I had a pretty good rig to race on. Now previously I have had a Planet X Stealth Pro Carbon time trial bike. I raced Ironman on that, and then a few years back when I started piling on the timber, I almost wrote myself off and I said, I'll never get on that again. And I had one final race on it, which was crap, to be honest with you. 2 punctures mid-race. It was bloody awful. So I ended up selling the bike, and I must admit I've regretted it from the moment I sold it. And I've wanted another time trial bike ever since, but of course I was the wrong shape for a time trial bike, but I'm not now. So I've gone out and got myself one. I wanted to do this quite cheaply. I kind of set myself a budget. I said, can I build a time trial rig or a triathlon rig? And I came up with this stupid idea. I was watching a GCN show and they had a set of handlebars. I think they're MV handlebars, and they're like 1,500 quid. And I said to myself, I bet you I can build a time trial bike cheaper than that. Now, you can, if you go on to eBay, you can pick up an entire bike for far, far less than that. You're talking sort of like 3 figures. You're talking sort of like in the hundreds for a decent time trial bike. Obviously, if you want to buy a brand new one, you're talking thousands just to get on the ladder. So for me, it was always going to be second hand. Now, one of the big problems is I'm 6 foot, and practically every frame that you see on eBay is a small or a medium. But then this came up. This is a Exocet 2 in a large frame size. Now the large frame size, variously, if you go on Planet X website, or you go on the Wayback Machine and go on the website for this frame sizing, I think they specified this up to 6 foot. It will go above that. You've only got to read a few online forums, people saying, I'm 6'2", and there's plenty of adjustment in it. And having just slung a leg over this, it's fine. It's going to be fine for me. Now, having said that, the bike as it stands today is practically unrideable for me. And there are a few reasons for that. Primarily, it is that the bike has previously been owned by quite a hardcore time trialist. Now, the evidence that this has been a hardcore time trial bike at some point in its life is all over it. When I picked it up, both ends of the crank were covered in black PVC tape, presumably to gain 1/10 of a watt or something like that somewhere. I mean, for Christ's sake, there's even black PVC tape on the cutout in the front brake, presumably to make that a little bit more aero. The bigger issues for me are the drivetrain and the handlebar position. There is, for me, plenty of adjustment in the seat post. I mean, I've kind of ballparked that for where I need it, and it's probably halfway through its adjustment range. So there's plenty of up and down adjustment for me. I've even, when I picked it up, the saddle was through the first eyelet on this adjustable post here. I've even moved that back to give myself a little bit more space. But the real issues for me are for kind of deconverting this from a time trial rig and making it into a triathlon rig. Let's begin at the front. So the front, we've got this very low base bar. Now that very low base bar is a consequence of it having a slammed stem, a very short stem, and a stem that is, I think, 87 degrees, spec 87 degrees. No, 83 degrees. So that means from level, it's 7 degrees down. There is, waiting inside for me, a 110 metre. Of course, what I meant to say there is a 110 millimetre stem, not a 110 metre stem. Back on with it. 17 degrees rise stem on that. So that's immediately going to put those bars just a little bit further away from me and a little bit further up. At the moment, I wouldn't be able to ride this position because whoever owned the bike previously has almost flipped these armrests side to side. So normally that armrest there would sit kind of, or on my previous bike, it would sit outboard of the extension. These have been flipped so that they sit inboard, and consequently, you know, Jesus, that's a really good time trial position, but I wouldn't want to hold that for 5 hours on an Ironman. So they need sorting out. There is a bigger issue here at the front, and let me tell you about that. One check I'd say is vital on any second-hand bike that you buy, and it would be preferable if you could do this before you hand over your cash, but not all of us can. And I certainly couldn't when I picked this bike up, is just to have a look at the steerer tube here. And what you're looking for is you're looking to make sure that somebody hasn't clamped a stem around this that is unsupported by the expander plug that goes in here. Now with this bike, you can see that the bung is way down. So it's way down inside the steerer tube here. So where this is fitted, it's providing support possibly to the bottom of the stem, where the bottom of the stem clamps. So that bolt will be supported internally, but this top bolt, definitely not. So when I've sorted all of that out, let's move backwards. Let's talk about that drivetrain. Now I think for me, the drivetrain is going to be one of the big challenges with this. At the moment, it's one by. So whoever, you know, your hardcore time trialist that converted the bike originally has taken off the front mech hanger, and we've now just got 2 bolts there. So from somewhere, I've got to find a mech hanger that's compatible with this frame. Now, considering that this frame hasn't been made for years, and I checked with Planet X and they haven't got a clue how to get a mech hanger for it, that's going to be a challenge. The reason that gives me an issue is that currently this is one by, so that's a proper time trial setup. What we've got there is a 56 tooth drag to zero chainring. I think that might actually be carbon, and that's on a full carbon FSA light carbon crankset. So very light crankset, 1 by aero chainring on there. And obviously for me, I'm going to be racing on this, and a lot of the races I do will not be completely flat. I want a 2x. And so the first challenge is, like I say, sourcing a front mech hanger so that I can deconvert all this. The drivetrain is going to be converted to Shimano 105R7000 11 speed because I like that group set and because I've just bought one off Merlin. So that's going to go on there. So I think that for me is going to be one of the biggest challenges. And that was quite a bargaining chip when I was buying this bike. Now the bike as it stands at the moment with the wheels, and I bought the bike and wheels separately, the bike and wheels as they stand at the moment stand me just over £600. Not bad really, is it? But like I say, there was a lot of bargaining just because I was saying to the guy, well look, if you've got the mech hanger, you've immediately added a lot of value to that frame, but if you haven't, for me personally, I'll go find another one. So yeah, so this drivetrain is coming off, Shimano 105R7000 going on, and I've currently got a couple of mech hangers on order, which in terms of their bolt width should fit, but we'll see. And even if they don't fit, I've got a plan for how I can make them fit. So the wheels are American Classic 58 carbons. I've got a set of these on the other Planet X, the Planet X Pro Carbon. These are a slightly older set, and I quite like this colourway. I think it quite matches the bike. Obviously it won't when I take that FSA crankset off, but who cares about colours anyway. These were off of Facebook Marketplace. The guy he'd originally got these priced at 300. I think he had them on eBay at 300. He then knocked that down to 250. He went to 230. And by the time I was standing in front of him, I was quite happy to pay 230 for them. When I looked at them though, there's a little bit more wear on the brake tracks than I was happy with, or it looked like there was in the advertising photos. I literally was going to walk away, and he said, well, make me an offer. So I kind of, what I thought, lowballed him at 180, which I think is reasonable for this set of wheels. I guess they've got about 2 seasons left in them. And he said, go on, I'll have a deal with you. So wheels 180. So the frame I gave 454. Wheels I've given 184. So in terms of building a race bike cheaper than that MV bar, we're well on track at the moment. Now one of the changes that the previous owner had made to this bike that really surprises me is these Tange brake levers. They feel quite comfortable and they look quite sturdy, but I know that these bikes out the factory, I think that these came with a set of Tektro carbon levers that look a lot more aerodynamic than these. There's a set of those making their way to me from an eBay seller right now because I just think that they look better, and somehow I just want to take this bike back as much as I can to original spec. So whilst we're up this end of the bike, let's talk about gear shifters. At the moment there is only one shifter on here because, like I say, previous owner set it up as 1x. I'm obviously swapping it back to 2x, so there's a set of 11-speed Dura-Ace shifters on their way to me at the moment. So what we've got at the moment is just one blank bar hook and one, I think that is a Shimano shifter on this side. They're going to go away, brand new set of 11-speed Shimano Dura-Ace going on there. So there we have it, Project Greyhound. Now that name, Project Greyhound, came to me on a walk the other morning. This bike actually feels a bit like a racing greyhound that's been retired. It's obviously it's grey as well, but it feels like a racing greyhound that's been retired. You know, racing greyhounds, so I hear, make fantastic pets once they're retired because all they want is just a little bit of an easier life. And I think that's what this bike is going to get with me. You know, it's going to go from going very fast for 20 minutes to going faster than I normally would for a few hours. So that's the plan. The more observant amongst you might have noticed that the work has already started. Once I found that steerer bung that I showed you earlier on, there was no way I could leave that dodgy compression plug in there, so I've swapped it out, and whilst I was there I swapped out the stem as well. So yeah, we've got quite a bit more raise on the front end than we did when I introduced this. So over the next few videos I'm going to be fully transforming it, and that's going to be, you know, from the cockpit back. So these armrests are going, we're going to sort out the position of the extensions there. Brakes are actually, I'm going to swap those out because they're these SRAM calipers at the moment. I actually don't think they're as aerodynamic as the 105 R7000 calipers, and I've got a set of those just waiting to go on the bike. So those will be going on. Drivetrain fully refurbished. I've got a second-hand power meter to go on here. As you will know from my other videos, I'm a bit of a stages guy, and I've gone 4 just because it was the cheapest one I could find on eBay. And as part of the drivetrain refurbishment, I've got another token bottom bracket to go on there. I've got a really nice kit from Token for converting sort of BB386 and BB30 to Shimano 24mm Holotech. So it's quite a comprehensive kit. I wish I'd found it when I swapped the bottom bracket out in the Damani, because this has got the tools and everything in it, and it was cheaper than actually buying the parts separately. So that's going on. As you can see, I've got this lovely big box of parts that over the next few videos are going to make their way onto this bike, and then hopefully by the time this is done we should be into a little bit of better weather and I can start riding it and reporting back on it. And one thing I would be interested to know, I think this is a Selkoff base bar because it's got Selkoff written on it. But if anyone knows where I can get some more risers for this, I've looked everywhere and I can't find them. Ideally what I'd like is I'd like to come up quite a bit actually. I reckon I want to come up about 40-50 mil, and I'd really like one of the aero bridges that brace the risers. So if anyone knows where to get one of those, give me a shout. But yeah, there you go, Project Greyhound. If you've made it this far, as always, you have my thanks and admiration, and I'll catch you in the next one.